Hello everyone, today we will be setting up OPNsense on QEMU. OPNsense is an open source firewall and router software based on FreeBSD. There are several reasons to set up OPNsense on QEMU. One is to manage the clients, that is the virtual machines present in the QEMU environment. Another is to learn the OPNsense functionalities. To set it up, first let's download the ISO. Go to Google and search for OPNsense. Click on the link that says opnsense.org. Click on download. Now let's select the architecture. Let's select the image type. I'll be going with DVD and then choose the mirror location which is close to you and then click on download. Notice that the file will be downloaded as BZ2 package, so you'll have to unzip it before using it to set up on QEMU. I have already downloaded it. So let's go to Virtual Machine Manager to create the new virtual machine. Before creating the virtual machine, we need a local area network for the OPNsense where our clients can be connected, and the WAN network will be the default NAT connection that will be provided by the QEMU. Now let's create the network. Click on edit, click on connection details. These are the networks that I have already created. Now let's create a new network. Click on the plus icon here. Give the name for the network. Choose the mode as routed. And then we'll configure the IPv4 configuration. First of all, let's disable the DHCP-v4 since we'll be providing this service using the OPNsense VM. Now for the network address, choose something simple like 10.11.0.0. Choose the subnet as 24 and then click on finish. Now you can see that our network is created with all the desired options. Now let's move on to create the OPNsense virtual machine. Click on create a new virtual machine. Let's go with the local install media. Click on forward. Let's browse for the ISO. Let's choose the type of the operating system. For this we'll choose generic Linux. Click on forward. Let's keep the memory as 4 GB. I'll increase the CPU count to 3. Click on forward. I'll keep the storage for the virtual machine as 25 GB. Click on forward. Let's change the name for this. Before we proceed on to create the virtual machine, we have to customize, that is add another network interface card for our local area network. Since one network interface card is already added that is connected to net to provide the internet access to our virtual machine. So click on customize configuration before install and then click on finish. Now that we have the configuration options, click on add hardware, click on network and then choose the network that we created earlier, that is my local. Click on finish and then click on begin installation. Now let's wait for the OPNsense system to boot up. Before we configure any of the options here like LAN or WAN, let's start the installer menu by logging into the system as installer. Give the password as OPNsense, all in lowercase. Now that the OPNsense installer has been opened, continue with the default key map. Choose with any of the option that you prefer. I'll go with UFS. Choose the disk that you created. It is warning that the contents of the disk will be erased. Click on yes. Now let's wait for the installation to complete. Now that we have the system ready, let's configure the interface and the IP address. So login as root using the previous password, that is OPNsense. We can see many options here, out of which the assign interfaces is the one we need to see first. So press 1 and enter. We don't need to configure lags now, so simply press enter as no is the default option. We also don't need VLANs now, press enter. Now we have to identify the WAN interface name. So since we have two network interface cards, let's go to the I button here. Find the network interface card that is attached to the default network which provides the internet. So this is the card that is attached to the default network, and the MAC address ends with EDFA. So let's find that network interface card in the VM. As you can see, EDFA is the VTnet 0 interface. So let's type VTnet 0, press enter. Now for the LAN interface, it's obviously the next one. So it is VTnet 1, press enter. We don't need any optional interfaces, so simply press enter. Verify that the interfaces are assigned correctly and then press Y and enter. After we have assigned the interfaces, now we need to change the IP address of the local area network. As you can remember, we have set a different IP when creating the network, that is 10.11.0.0. So let's change that IP there. Now to set the interface IP address, use the option 2 and press enter. We will set the IP address for the LAN interface, so press 1 and enter. We don't have DHCP on that interface, so we'll simply press enter. Now enter the LAN IP address. So use the third IP address from the network address. What I mean by that is, suppose if the IP address of the network is 10.11.0.0, it would be the network address. Next is the 10.11.0.1 is used by the host machine, that is where you create the virtual machines. As a proof, let me show. Type IP space R, and as you can see here, this is the network that we created. So this is the network address 10.11.0.0 and 10.11.0.1 is taken up by the host machine. So automatically the next address that is remaining is 10.11.0.2, which is the third IP from the network address. So let's enter that IP 10.11.0.2. Keep the subnet as 24. We don't need to enter upstream gateway address, so press enter. We don't need WAN tracking. We also don't need DHCP6. We also don't need this either. So we want to enable the DHCP server on LAN, so press Y and enter. So to enter the start address, we'll choose the next address from the IP address that we chose for the LAN network, that is 10.11.0.2. So the next address will be 10.11.0.3, and the end address would be typically 10.11.0.254. For this demo, I'll keep it up to 250. Keep the protocol from the HTTPS to HTTP. So press Y. Rest all options keep it as default. Now you can see the IP address has changed to 10.11.0.2. Let's try to open it up on the web browser. As you can see, we get the dashboard of the OPNsense. Use the credentials that we used to log in. So root and OPNsense. As you can see, we get the initial configuration. We'll have to go through certain things before we get to use this software. So click on next. We can keep this as it is. Click on next. Change the time zone according to your preference. Click on next. We don't need to modify anything here. So click on next. This is as we required, so click on next. We don't need to change the root password. You can change it if you want to. So click on reload to apply the changes. Now we have finished the initial configuration, so click on continue to dashboard. Here we can see some of the data, that is CPU usage and memory usage, also the disk usage. Also we can try out all the options that are present here, that is firewall, VPN, services. Here we can have the DHCP v4, that is the DHCP service that we configured earlier. Now let's try to connect a VM to this network. So I'll use the Arch Linux in this case. Before starting the VM, we need to change its settings. Right click on Arch Linux and open. Click on the I button, and then we need to change the network interface card settings. So network source should be selected to my local, which is a network that we created earlier. Click on apply and then start the VM. As the VM gets started, let's see if an IP is getting allocated. Let's go to leases. As you can see, an IP is already assigned to the Arch Linux VM. Now let's make sure that we get the internet access to that VM. I'll log in using the credentials. Let's check the IP first. As you can see, we have got the correct IP. Now let's test the connectivity to the internet. As you can see, the internet is working fine. Also, let's test the traceroute command. As you can see, the request is first going to the OPNsense and then to the NAT network and then to my network. So this is it for this video. If you have found this video helpful, like this video and subscribe to the channel for more such videos. Thank you.